What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to do a top list. And now, this is not necessarily going to be in any specific order, but they are three things in general. Three franchises that Sony has left for dead, okay, basically, that I want for them to bring back. Now, I've done stuff like this, actually, similar in terms of like a remake or remaster. I did a video, I think almost like a year ago, where I talked about remakes that I want to happen, right? Which is kind of borderline because, like, obviously, those are games that are probably forgotten or like very old that I want to bring back. But these are, and I talk about these a lot. Casually, I'll bring these up in different videos I make of just these franchises, and there's more. There's more than just three, but there are franchises that are inside Sony that they have just literally left behind, where they easily, I think, could bring them back. I don't even think it was for a good reason that they actually did leave them behind, and I think that they should be brought back. So we're gonna go over three of them in this video, okay? Obviously, I want to hear your guys' list in the comments below. Also, if you guys want me to do more of these ranking lists, I really love making them. I'd love to do more of them. Let me know any suggestions you guys have in the comments, okay? One final thing, make sure, obviously, while you're there, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you guys want to follow our Twitch channel, link for that is in the description below. We live stream over there a couple times a week. I do want to bring up, as an honorable mention, like Jak and Daxter. I think that's going to be one that a lot of people will probably throw out. That's a good one. That's a good one. I do think it needs to be brought back. But here are the three. Number one, and I, again, these are not in order, but maybe this one is because of just how important it is. I don't know if this is necessarily number one. Sly Cooper. Sly Cooper is a franchise to me that, I mean, it's very important to me personally, okay? And I've talked, again, in passing, I made videos about Sly, specifically talking about, like, these games coming back. I think, actually, for all of the games or franchises I'm going to mention, I have talked about them at some point. Sly Cooper is an amazing franchise. It's one that I grew up with, but not in the way that I was like a super young kid, right? That game, or actually couple games, was Crash and Spyro. So to me, those were my games, all right? Now, some people grew up, especially depends on the consoles you have, right? Maybe some grew up with Mario, stuff like that, but I grew up, I was a big Crash guy. That's one of the main reasons that Crash Bash, I always bring Crash Bash up. That was like my main, I actually did play Team Racing, but I played a couple of the other ones, like the original, I think I played like the original 3 or 4 of the Crash games, but Crash Bash was like the big one. Spyro wasn't into as much as like everybody else, but I did play, I think, the first 2 back in the day, but Crash was the big one. And then as I got older, when I was 8, 9, 10, I don't remember the exact age, I'll have to like cross-reference it with when Sly came out, but Sly, I got introduced to Sly, and actually, I hated Sly when I first played it. I played Sly 2 first, and I got stuck, actually. I don't know why. I literally couldn't beat the first level in Paris with Dimitri. I couldn't beat it, and I think I like rented it, or maybe I did buy it and I returned it, or I just gave it away or something, and then my grandparents got it for me for Christmas, and I was like, shoot, you really shouldn't have done that because I hate this game, right? I couldn't beat it. I gave it a second try. It's a legendary story if you think about it. Gave it a second try, and I adore this game. I adore it. And ever since then, I've adored it. And what Sony has done with this franchise is disgusting. And I'm going to say that quite often in this video. Sony, you listening? This is a travesty, because this game franchise, I think, it has always been so strong. I mean, especially Sly 2 and 3. I'd say Sly 2. Sly 2, I think, is kind of universally the most well looked upon one. But these are phenomenal games that did really well. They sold really well, as on top of that. Thieves in Time was obviously Thieves in Time. I enjoyed Thieves in Time. I thought it was actually a pretty solid game. I played it with my friend who also grew up playing Sly, and we both love Sly together. I get it didn't sell well. I get it didn't do all that well. I get that it wasn't the greatest. In fact, it was probably, I still think it's better than Sly 1, but I think it's the weakest of the Sly 2, 3, and 4. Okay, Sly 4 is the weakest. I get it, okay? They tried to do the TV show. They literally had like, I don't even remember. They had like 30, 40 episodes like ready, and they canceled the entire thing. It's insane what happened with Sly, okay? They need to bring it back. And we've said it for years, actually, specifically on this channel. I know there's other channels, that Canadian guy, right? Really nice guy. I know he's done videos on Sly before. There's others. And Sly is just I think it's such a good franchise that really always has legs. And now we're seeing Spyro, Crash, all these games come back. And it's like, what else do you want to return from the dead as part of that era, as part of those childish things, but they're not really all that childish because like grown adults can play these games too. What more needs to happen for Sony to realize that Sly is one of them, and that Sly can come back in a remake? They could do a remaster collection. Again, there's no way of playing Thieves in Time with the rest of them. They have the collection for 1 through 3, but they don't have it for Thieves in Time. Okay, so like That's definitely one of them. I want to interject really quickly too. I forgot. I should have said a second honorable mention is PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Not going to say much about it. We just made a video on it over the last week, but this is another one that it's only one game. It's not necessarily a franchise. It's one game, but my dear God, bring it back, please. Make us a second game. Okay. Infamous is the next one I want to talk about. So this is a lot more high profile. In fact, of the three, and there's one more we'll talk about, of the three, this is easily the biggest one. This is a one that I think had the biggest success. Obviously, remember when it first came out, and again, I kind of have stories for all these, so if you guys don't like them, I'm sorry, but it's kind of something I want to do. When Infamous came out, remember, the biggest thing at the time was the comparison to Prototype. Now, I've said it before, I actually played Prototype back then. I played Infamous, actually, I think a year or two after it came out, but I was caught up in time for Infamous 2 and also Festival of Blood, and then obviously Second Son as well. Again, this is the biggest franchise. This is the one that I think is most well received, along with it sold well. This is also the one, because of those things, by the way, it's confusing. I don't actually understand it, why Sony has decided to just leave the game behind, right? Because it did do critically well. Now, I didn't personally like Second Son, but it's more like tough love. It's more like, yeah, it did things right. Like, it's not the worst game of all time, but as an Infamous game, for how high I put Infamous 1 and 2, like, in my head of how well, they did there, Sucker Punch did there, I don't think Second Son was all that good, okay? So it's more like tough love. But I don't think everybody saw it that way. I think actually a lot of people really liked Second Son, okay? This is a game franchise that does need to return. Again, I don't think there's a way, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a way of playing these games together either. Now, Second Son is still, like, recognized. That's the thing, too. Like, Sly has basically been forgotten besides PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and ever since then, there's been nothing, about Sly besides the canceled TV show. But for Infamous, they continue to, like, we know that the game still exists, right? The domain was actually renewed, so the domain is still around for Infamous. And also, Second Son was one of the PS Plus collection games for the PS5, how it was like like 20 games or so. A lot of them were PlayStation exclusives, right? Infamous Second Son was one of them. I think it's actually the oldest game on that, on that group. So it's obviously a game that they still know is around. They still know the importance of. I really think it's only a matter of time until we get this is one that I think is a lot more safe, right? That I do think we will get a new Infamous game. But as of right now, it's still kind of odd that it's been what? Actually, this will be 7 years since we've had an Infamous game, which is actually kind of wild, right? Final game franchise is Resistance, and this is one that I'm very passionate about. Sly, it means so much to me, but Resistance is one that makes me, like, I think the most mad, because this is a game I think, I don't know, kind of taking, like, the blinders off, right? I know how much Sly means to me. I know how much Infamous means to me. Resistance, I feel like, is the best groupings of all these games. I mean, Resistance 1 through 3 are such good games. Now, of course, there's problems, and Resistance 2 did do some pretty wacky stuff and changed up how things work, and I get that alienated the 5 people that played the game at the time, and that's a joke. At the same time, it's not, because remember, I think everybody kind of knows this, that maybe is at least watching these videos, Resistance undersold massively. It's actually one of the most, like, disappointing game franchises ever, because they put so much money into it. Sony puts, especially 3, they really tried to push 3 as much as they possibly could, and nobody bought. Now, again, nobody, maybe 1 million, maybe 1.5, maybe 2, but the amount of people that bought the game was nowhere near enough, and that's what eventually led Insomniac to leave. Remember, they were not owned by Sony, but they only worked with them. They left, and they did Sunset Overdrive on Xbox, which also was a really good game that failed on Xbox. Nobody played that either. So up until Spider-Man, I would say, were one of the most underrated developers ever, because they just make really solid games, really good games, and nobody plays them in kind of like a mass scale, like they're trying to be, big top-tier AAA developers, and then nobody plays. Funny now that they're making Spider-Man, and they're selling more than, like, any game under the sun, right? It's kind of odd how that happens. But, no, Resistance is so good. I've talked about it before. Remake the 3. 3 doesn't really need it. 2, I would say, honestly, doesn't need all that much. 1 does. 1, I think, obviously, 2006, I believe, is when it came out. It could be 2007, but hopefully it's 2006. It really could use a makeup to it, a remaster, something. Again, like, this is a franchise that I'll never I'll never stop hoping for a Resistance 4. Now, they ended it. Could they do like a reboot? Could they restart it? I guess no, technically, the way Resistance 3 ended, they could make more. Like, they left the door open very slightly for future games. So, that one is one that I really think. All three of them, I do think have potential. Like, and even like PlayStation All-Stars, Jak and Daxter, I think all of them have potential to come back, okay? Sly, I think, again, would be easiest as like a remaster collection. Put them all together. Infamous, I think you'll just get a new Infamous game. I really don't think it would be all that hard. I think people would still be there. Resistance, remake, Resistance 4, Resistance reboot. I really think all of them are possible. But at the same time, again, Resistance is one in particular that I think they have to have a really big backing just in the studio, because they need to believe that the game can do well, and they have no evidence to suggest that the game will sell well because they've never done it before, and that's the sucky thing about it, you know what I mean? So let me know, guys, in the comments below. Again, I gave you 5, technically 3, and then 2 honorable mentions. Let me know if you guys agree. Am I missing out on any? I'm sure I am. Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. Again, if you guys want to follow us on Twitch, the link for that is in the description below. Would love to do more of these these top videos for you guys. I expect to do more of them as the months go on, and I hope to see you all there.